My name is Andres Cardenal, and for those of you who don't know, I've been in Westminster since second grade, and I've been given the opportunity to be the fine arts speaker this year. Throughout my time at Westminster, I've been given the opportunity to use the musical abilities that God has given me by singing in the choir since fourth grade and singing with the jazz band this past year. One of my earliest memories of being a student at WCS was having to memorize the weekly Bible verse in elementary, and I'm sure that just unlocked a memory. I used to dread having to memorize unfamiliar language that seemed like gibberish week after week. Not only were the words confusing, but I also had no idea what I was even reciting. However, in fifth grade specifically, I remember that Miss Kaiser helped us memorize the verses using music. By creating a simple melody, I managed to find a link between singing and learning about God's word. And this was the first time I learned that such a connection existed. As I continued to grow up, I came across a quote from Stephen Sondheim, one of the most renowned composers in history. And he said that when emotions become too strong for words, you sing. At the time, I wasn't sure what he meant. Surely you could express anything with a logical speech and sophisticated arguments. But I understood the meaning behind Sondheim's words at my first Warrior Week. I still remember it vividly. It was our first night at Sharp Top. And since we were at the bottom of the food chain, the freshman boys were choosing to clean up after the rest of the students once dinner was over. And as we made our way to the wheelhouse, late and last, a distant sound gradually became louder and louder. And walking through those doors, I just remember being punched in the face with music from We the Kingdom. Drums, bass, guitar, and vocals. And as the worship went on that night, I felt something I had never felt before. I knew what it was like to sing at church and chapel, but this was unlike anything else. Soon enough, I started looking forward to every Warrior Week, eager to sing and worship with We the Kingdom once again. Although I had good intentions, because of that pivotal experience at that first Warrior Week, I somehow felt that We the Kingdom, the band, was the key to worshiping, and that without them, I wasn't as close to God. But this all changed during our last and most recent Warrior Week. With the leadership of talented musicians, our class became the first grade in school history to start student-led worship after hours. And our last night at Sharp Top specifically stood out to me. After our senior pool party, there had been an exception to the curfew to get the opportunity to worship in the wheelhouse. So drenched and soaking wet, a group of students, including myself, worshiped wholeheartedly past midnight. That night, I realized that it didn't matter who was on stage or even around me at all. All that mattered was that we were singing, and I revisited Sondheim's words. When emotions become too strong for words, you sing. And there truly weren't any words to capture the atmosphere inside the wheelhouse that night. The closest I can describe it was like floating in God's presence. But I experienced a revelation, which is when God directly communicates something to you. To me, it felt like God was saying, no matter how alone I would feel in the future, He would always be right by my side, just like an audience in awe of a performance. As I look at the faces of these students sitting behind me, I can't help but feel immensely proud, not only for surviving tough classes like physics or managing to keep senioritis at bay, but rather for the young men and women they've become. In their faces, I see the last 4 years flashing by, like a soundtrack rewinding its songs, dub hunting while blasting our favorite tunes on the radio, worshiping at the top of our lungs, or even listening to Cole Sperling's DJ sets. But even further, I see them for who they will become. Doctors, lawyers, athletes, actors, moms, dads, and most of all, followers of Jesus. And to my fellow students, as we move on to this next journey in life, there will be times where we may feel incredibly lonely, lose hope, or feel like giving up. And I'll admit, I have no idea what's in store for the next couple of years. But I can't shake the feeling that we'll always have a home here together, no matter what happens. We've had a rare but priceless opportunity to grow a relationship with Jesus throughout our time at WCS, and I'm certain that He will be holding our hands as we venture into the unknown. And although I'm sad to close the curtains on this chapter, I can't wait to see how we'll use the tools that Westminster has given us to be ambassadors of Christ in the future. Thank you.